Well, I think it connected with children's imaginations. Children love horses, and it's not a song about a dysfunctional relationship, a marriage, or a split up, or a party song. It's a song that fires the imagination of children, and as those children grow up, they remain fans of it because they still remember when they were kids. So I think that's the main reason. It's really a song that appeals to young people who love horses and they're fascinated with horses. And there's a lot of stories and legends about horses that come from the Southwest. So it was a perfect song for me because it's a cowboy song. I actually wrote the song myself, but they recorded it, and that was because Michael Nesmith was in a band with me, and after he left that band and auditioned for the Monkees and got the part, he called me up and said, "I want to do your song. What am I doing hang around?" Basically, it launched my career. It's what caused me to take off as a songwriter and go from a small publishing company to a bigger one called Screen Gems in Los Angeles. And from there on, I just continued to write songs for people for quite a few years. And then there were a number of songs I couldn't quite get somebody else to do, so I ended up getting a record contract and did songs like Geronimo's Cadillac and Wildfire myself because people were not as interested in those songs. But turned out the good Lord was saving them for me, so I could have my own hits with songs that I really believed in. Well, I consider my whole career to be a Western music career. I've dabbled in a lot of different stuff, but on my first album cover, Geronimo's Cadillac, I may have longer hair and look younger, but I've got a beard and I've got a cowboy hat on and I'm wearing a Western shirt, and I've always been coming from the Southwest. I've always tried to evoke the spirit of the Southwest and where I come from in my music. And so that goes from the blues that was big in Texas, the jazz music that was big here. Texas has been a great crossroads of music culturally, but ultimately it was cowboy music that started off in Texas that really started the whole American folk music movement. My message is write your music from your soul and from your heart first, and worry about the commercial aspect later. But make sure you learn to be a good writer first and a good musician. I've had a lot of kids come to me, they say, "I want to be a songwriter and I want to be a star." And I'll say, well, first you better figure out how to write something and have something to say, and that means getting a good education. And so I've encouraged a lot of kids who even won big contests nationally to go on and continue to stick with their education, because when it comes to songwriting, it's not just about the musicianship, which takes enough dedication, but it's also about the literary side of learning poetry and meter and rhyme and rhythm and referential poetic images that relate to our lives. And to do that, you really need to get a good education. You need to study the whole literature of our Western culture, going all the way back to the Greeks and the Latins and the Old Testament and everything. If you don't study that, you won't be as good of a songwriter. And I can point to almost every successful songwriter who's lasted for a long time and show you how they studied literature. They didn't just sit down and say, "I want to be a star, I'm going to write a hit, boom. You know, I'm a good-looking kid, I can get on the stage, you know, I can win a contest, you know, I'm going to be a star." A lot of times they take off pretty fast, but their rise is meteoric. And you know what happens to meteors? They burn out. It makes perfect sense to do Western music and cowboy music with a symphony. If you go back to the earliest Westerns made that had sound, John Ford and people like that were using an orchestral sound to evoke the spaces of the American West. And so we're here to continue on in the John Wayne, John Ford tradition, the tradition of the great American Westerns. And I think you best do that with an orchestra. The melodies are classic. Songs like Streets in Laredo, Red River Valley, Tumbling Tumbleweeds, these deserve a big orchestral setting so that you can really feel and imagine the great American West. It's a little easier in Texas, though.